Hello, welcome to Inside Out with myself and Neka Nagu. Far right political parties are surging in Europe, in Italy, Germany, France, and England. Years back, those parties were at the fringe, but now they're returning at the front of European political discourse. What are the forces behind the shift of this political debate? We joined by Philippe Shamamba online, who is the regular contributor of Inside Out. Inside Out is every Saturday with myself and Neka. Neka, we've seen in England, in France, France Rassemblement National with Marine Le Pen, Italy, the
Lega, party.
Switzerland is well.
People's Party, yeah.
Party.
Yeah.
But the five predominant far right political in 5 countries in Europe. So the France, Spain, Italy, here in England as well. Some people, as Philippe said, they know that surging in England, but we'll discuss that with Philippe. We've seen this surging, the rising of political party of far right movement.
Yeah, it's the new trending thing now in all of Europe. It's a new reality, and it's becoming a big problem across the whole of Europe, basically. And I think it's going to get worse. We're seeing more and more protests. We're seeing a lot of them are being emboldened. They're having politicians, some mainstream politicians that are backing them openly. They're getting, sponsored. So I mean, this is the new political reality across all of Europe.
This has tendency of to shift the policies, the reform within Europe. They couldn't win the majority at European Parliament during the recent EU Parliament elections. But however, they gaining popularity, isn't it? A receptive tendency. We'll discuss around that. Minority groups within Europe safe? That's the question that we should ask. Hi, Philip. How are you doing?
Hi, Junior. Hi, Neka. Good afternoon.
Hi, Philip.
Hello.
Hi, Philip. Philip, we've seen the rising of far right movement within the EU countries. 5 countries are predominant: France, Italy, Spain, England. People may say England, Germany as well. And Neka mentioned Switzerland as well, and in Switzerland, I think one of the biggest far right movement in Swiss is a Swiss political party that's in Switzerland.
Yeah.
What your view, Phil?
Well, my views on this is a bit scary to see this country like Switzerland that is always being seen as neutral, the people as neutral, becoming so radical, far right, and is a bit scary. But to start, I mean, a lot of people get confused between this political philosophy or political belief, far right wing, then you have left, then center, you have far left, and then you have left. So people do get confused. I think if we start by explaining first, what do we understand by this terminology of right wing? What is a right wing? What is far right? What is extreme? What is left? I think that would be the best way to start. If you allow me, I'll briefly go on to explain so our listeners can understand. Those who do not know what they mean, they can at least comprehend what that means. Because I spoke to a lady not long ago. She had no idea what is left wing, what is right wing, what is far right, what is far left.
Definitely, because sometimes it creates confusion, isn't it? You don't know what policies far right are following. The only people may know in terms of far right politics is immigration, anti-immigration, and Europe sceptic. for the far left, more social dominant, social issues, social reform, but it creates confusion when they're in power. Sometimes you don't know that was for that policies that they're implementing. It was implemented before by the far right in terms of immigration, but it creates confusion. If you can give us a brief of, take us around, what makes difference?
Let's first start with the far left. The far left, they do believe in the existing political and economical structures. So they kind of their ideology, they don't believe in establishments. So they believe they're not into political structures, and they're opposed to liberalism and democracy. So for them, it's like open borders. I don't know if some people believe just open borders, not to be anything about that, people just go where they want and all that. These are the ideology of far left. And the left wing, for them, they believe in freedom, equality, fraternity, people's rights, progress in society, to say reforms, and internationalism, which means you can let people from worldwide, we can all live together as people to internationalize the whole planet. That is the left wing. And if you go to the right wing believe to be hierarchy, to be order, to be a reaction to the nationalism, to be nationalist, they believe in the whole country. But if you go to the far left, which they take the right wing, so nationalism and tradition, so they take it quite far. Then you see things like racism appear, things like what can I say? So they are very radical. They think they should be what they are, which they should not let people in the country. So they believe they should be what they are without people from outside and all. So these are the far right ideology. Yeah.
So just to add to that, I think within the far right party, I think there are two types. You have one that are leaning more towards the center. They are not necessarily, they're nationalists, and I wouldn't necessarily call them racist. Some of them, it's all about their having this identity, their identity maintained, while they respect other people.
Others,
so I think we're having the extreme far right who are who we can sort of say they are racist, and they're pure national, they're more the populist type of leaning in terms of their political ideology. But I, having observed over the last couple of years, starting from Trump, to likes of Le Pen, to likes of Nigel Farage, and even the Italian
Lega.
you see that after a while, when they get in, because she was far right, and I think she was extreme far right in my view, given some of the things that she was spewing. But now she's more like leaning towards the center. So I think, and one of the things I'd like to add is when we talk about the far right, they're very, like you rightly said, they're anti-establishment. They do not. It's all about fighting against the globalist agenda.
It's not identity, strong of identity.
They want to maintain, their identity,
national identity.
The whole DI, diversity, equality, and inclusion. What do you call it? Project that's been going across Europe. America being one of the biggest pioneer and driver of this. And that's why you see the Republican, the very anti-establishment. And one of the things that they're very open about is the whole globalist agenda. So, I just thought I'd add that.
So what are the forces, Philip? What are the forces? Are immigrations and, climate change are the forces behind the increasing number of far right movement within Europe.
Mhm. Yeah, like Neka just pointed out, you have those, you have far right, then you have the extreme far right. So if we speak about the far right in general, which you might say, we can find far right people inside the extreme far right within the far right. So the extreme far right, we are those people who think they should be just them. They should not be mixing with other people. They should not have foreign. They should not have immigrants. Or say they should just be them where they are. But if you're on the right side, that's when we find the politicians there, because they can ease up a little bit. They can have sort of concession. They can have, let's say in France, for example, we've seen Marine Le Pen, who had she is one of French right wings. Her dad was the leader of the party, which is
Front National.
Yeah, and you know how much Front National was hated in France. When the father left, Marine Le Pen came. So she did some reforms, and she eased up a little bit. So there was some room for others. That you see some black people integrating Front National. Now you can see them in there. And then lately, the election just gone, we saw Front National being the portray as a nationalist. They want everything to be nationalist, to be French, like the Gaulle time and all that. The thing is, they kind of won the European French part of European election not long ago. But Macron, who's the president, did not like the idea of Front National winning at the European elections. So he anticipated elections in France, which means there were elections, the legislative election not long ago. He believed because he knows people in France, they don't like Front National, if you organize an election, he will not come out, you show people that he's still loved in France. And Marine Le Pen, to change things, she joined with a guy called Jordan Bardella, and they formed a coalition called what can I say, National Rally, which is Front National. On that, the French elections are they call it they got two rounds.
Yeah, two terms.
The first round, two terms.
2 rounds.
And the first Front National, the National Rally, the Rally National, the warning. So Bardella could become prime minister or the right wing. So they played now immigration and racism card, so they can make sure Marine Le Pen and Bardella don't become the main electoral power in France. So Bardella doesn't become prime minister, and this immigration card they played rose up everybody, and all the left, far left, and center they came against Front National, the right wing. So now we see on the second term, because the Front National, the Rally National, which is Marine Le Pen and Bardella, they came first, they did about 33%, and the rest had 5 year, 10 there. And the second term, they managed to come third or fourth. And now all the other left and the center parties, they were together against the right wing. Good for them.
Yeah, they formed a coalition, didn't they?
If they found a coalition for them, they would not allow right wing to lead the power. They'd rather have. They did not get on before the election, but they decided to have a coalition so they can not let the right wing to win. Because you don't let a right wing or far right for 5 years to see how they will do. Because you don't know in 5 years what are they going to do, so you don't take a chance.
Definitely.
Or let what they will do in these 5 years. They're going to do something good. This are what we and the extreme right might come. So this will be Anything else?
We've seen the shift, Phil. We've seen the shift of policies and reform within EU. We've seen, I think, 10 years ago, immigration was the front in terms of policies that the far right and even left were fighting around. But now we've seen climate change, which is Middle East, as one of the policy which are dividing the trend policies within EU. We've seen the crisis, Russia and Ukraine as well. Those are the main challenges, the current context that are bringing or creating groups and tendency in terms of political movement within EU. So, do we think that they divided in terms of poles, in terms of tendency, that immigration, climate change, Middle East, Russia and Ukraine are part of that shift that we've seen now?
I think for a lot of the far right parties, majority, one of the things that they have in common, I think when it comes to climate change, it could be one of them, but I don't think it's such a strong subject for them. It's more of immigration, the crisis in the Middle East. There's a lot of divide when it comes to Ukraine and Russia. You have some who are, the political establishment are more leaning to Ukraine in Europe, here in the UK, America. But we do have a handful of countries that, like Hungary, for instance, who, just want peace, and, they're taking measures to broker peace between Ukraine and Russia. But when it comes to the far right and the grassroots movement, you have the political party, and then you have the individual, the common, the society, the people. I think there's still some of their, you see a lot of the ordinary folks who are pro-Russia. You see, this is what I've been, observing. Some of them are pro-Russia, some are. So this is still within the right wing.
Yeah, we've seen that with Marie Le Pen as well. Clearly, she expressed support to Vladimir Putin.
Exactly, but then you still see some that are pro-Ukraine. So I think, again, going back to what we said earlier, it's about that nationalist movement. We want every policy, every laws made on this land to be about us first. So when you hear America first, this is what they're saying in America. We want the laws to be about us, about issues affecting us. So you do have some that are racist driven, but I think at the end of the day, and I like to be fair in my judgment. A lot of the cries that you hear from the common people, forget about the establishment, even the ones that say they're not globalists. Trump is a good example. He's supposed to be American first, but he's still a globalist. He's a typical capitalist. A lot of his, he's anti, countries that are not bowing to America, for instance. But he's supposed to be the leading figure for the far right movement in America. But lately, he's changed his stance. And this is what we're saying earlier about how politicians would capitalize on racism, play the race card, play, all sorts of, use emotion, religion. Islamophobia is like a big thing now in Europe. Look at what's happening here today. So, I know we're going to come to that. But they would use this to get into power. But they don't necessarily maintain this ideology when they get in.
You mentioned Donald Trump. The resurging of Donald Trump now. Do you think is an inspiration to the far right movement here within Europe?
Well, 2000 when was it that he got in? Was it 2016?
Yep.
Yeah. I think he did. It was the rise of the populist sort of movement. When Trump got in, he's a kind of politician that speaks his mind, and and he has no filter, he has no decorum, he has no charisma in terms of the things that he say, he doesn't know how to mediate. You know, he obviously he played a lot of this card that we're talking about. Then he was able to kind of rouse, you know, people across Europe, and you know, then you know, some people got emboldened, even in America. Someone like Nigel Farage, Katie Hopkins, you know, they became emboldened, and they would come out and say some very racist things. But I think Trump is moved away from that. I mean, Trump is his VP has an Indian wife, so a lot of the current Trump that we see does not really appeal to. He's leaning towards the center. He doesn't appeal to the far right movement as opposed to 2016.
So Trump is shifting, but the only thing is lacking is political correctness. That's
you can say that he doesn't.
That's what he's saying. You back in England here, Neka, you mentioned Nigel Farage and Kate Phil. Do you think that they play the current global crisis, particularly what's happening in Russia and Ukraine and Middle East? So that's the only card that Nigel Farage here will come back in England. Nigel Farage and Kate, they politician forefront. I think the high profile far right politician here within EU from in England. Do you think that they play the two cards, the Middle East crisis and Russia and in Ukraine, to regain popularity?
Yeah, let me just go back a little bit from Nika's. Earlier on, Nika spoke about Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister. When she was campaigning, she was very much of a far right wing, going towards far right. She was anti-war, she was anti-establishment, she was anti. And that was even the reason why she kind of teamed up with Berlusconi when she first got into as Prime Minister. But as she became Prime Minister, because she said if she becomes Prime Minister, she will make sure in Ukraine the war stops. She will not send any weapon, or Italy will not give money or that to Ukraine. But now, as we know, she's very much part of it. She's kind of financing the war. She's sending weapons and all that. As we say, right-wing people, they see themselves as nationalists, right? And the decisions are coming on top, which is European Union or NATO is deciding how they would do and the war order. And that is what is triggering this more people to shift toward the right. Because so they think, well, everything we are saying, even if we say we
You're
don't
not
want
listening.
this, but you guys are not listening. So for us to make ourselves listened, to make ourselves heard, we need to be part of the establishment. We need to go in there. That's how you see a lot of now. If you go to European Union, you see a lot more and more right-wing politicians are gaining places in EU, in British politics, in France, in everywhere. So more, it's no longer that how they used to be. Go and protest, show muscles, how strong I am, because they're not getting anywhere.
It's more about policies now.
Yeah, they need to. They and it's a smart strategy from their end. If I have to, from my own view, like Nigel Farage now becoming an MP, for instance. He attempted how many times before? I don't think he even.
No, that's the first time.
That's
for
the first time
He
for
was
him.
MEP member of European Parliament.
So you see, so that they've decided to, like you rightly said, let's get into the ring. We're no longer going to be outside the ring, being spectators and shouting out our ideas or what we want. We are going to get into the ring now. This is a real fight. And one of the things I'd like to point out is the fact that this movement is growing across Europe and America, and we're seeing the rise of this extreme far right. And I think we need to look at the what is the underlying, we've touched on it, but I think it goes beyond just this, them being nationalists. The movement we're seeing is like, I think you actually said that, they are not being listened to.
But what they want to be listened to? What are their policies?
No, the globalist movement they don't want that. When you decide, give you an example, when America decide that they're going to take on all that country's war at the expense of their young men, that is a globalist movement. Now, and this is where we need to be critical, and also at the same time be fair in our judgment. Why is this? So if I'm a politician right now, I would think, why are these people on the streets? Why are they causing? We know there are people who will always, in any society, in any setting, they'll capitalize on any issue, a minor issue. The racists amongst them will do. We have a lot of beautiful white people who are anti-racist. In fact, currently in Liverpool, in Manchester, in is it Sutherland?
In Southport.
The people,
London.
The people protecting the mosque. When you look at the image on the TV, they were predominantly white people. So we have, but you have this a handful of troublemakers who would capitalize on this. But one of the point I was trying to get across is, regardless of this, politicians need to listen. Now we take example of this whole globalist agenda, where it's all about dominating the world, or making everybody the same, or mixing the melting pot that they're trying to create, making that a lot of these people are looking at. I was following this this guy I follow on Twitter. He pointed out countries like China, Japan, the Southeast Asian countries, and how they've maintained their identity. They have immigrants living in their country. But
we'll come back to that, Neka.
So, okay.
Yeah, we'll come back to that, Neka. Yeah, Phil, we've seen that. I think Neka mentioned some of the protests that we've seen here in Southport, London, Liverpool. It was even before the murder in Southport. And just for the information, we know that 17 years old, I think is going to turn 18, has been named Ruda Kubana. He's a black boy.
He's an African.
But was born in Southport.
Yeah, born in Cardiff.
Born in Cardiff. So nothing background of a serial killer or of.
I think it's a case of mental health.
Yeah, the case of mental health. Do you think that is one of the elements which is in the cause or behind the recent protests?
Yeah, let me just come back a little bit regarding this Islamophobia. People need to make a difference between race and religion. Not every Asian you see is Muslim, and not every white person you see is Christian.
Absolutely.
I have friends who are white, but they are Buddhists. I have friends who are white, they're Muslim. I have black friends who are Muslim. I have Asian friends who are Catholic. So this habit of, if you see a lot of Asians, these are Muslims, race has nothing to do with religion. We need a Muslim is a Muslim, not necessarily white, black, or no. Muslim is a belief, and your belief is spiritual life. Spiritual life is you and God. It's what is inside. It's not what we see inside. So people need to make that difference. It's not because the person is Asian, is from India. You have people. When you go to Pakistan, you find Christians. So these are different things where the difference need to come. Going back to the question of what happened in Southport, the boy who was African background origin, born in Wales. I think until he says the reason behind what he did, we will not know why he did it. It's not because he's from Rwanda, it's not because he's from Africa. We've seen people with white background, they stab people to death, it's not because they are English. That's why they did this. We've seen in Europe, in Denmark, in Germany, people being stabbed by different races. And I don't think this should be used by the far right people to.
Yeah, but they are using it. That's
Yeah.
the problem. So when a black or someone from an immigrant, especially a brown person, commits any crime, then the whole community is tagged as criminal. Whereas when the guy that tried to kill Trump, whether he was used or not, he was a white dude. There was no protests, they went after the what do you call it? The guys are supposed to be, what do you call them? Protect Trump. The
Secret Service.
The Secret Service. They went after them, but there was no protests. If that was a black person, there would have been a march. There would have been some kind of protest, and they'll say, Elon Musk would be one of those that will post, see immigrants posting, and I just want to point this out. We talk about this right wing or extreme right wing using immigration and all this other whatever issue that they feel is affecting them to push for this chaos and push their agenda. I think one thing I like to also do is again take it back to the politicians, because it's the decisions that they make that is given, it's kind of fueling the rise and extremism that we're seeing. And I say that because, again, going back to the globalist agenda, without going into much detail, we haven't got time to kind of digress a lot, is when these guys are not being listened to. Because I think politicians should, I'm not saying condone their racist view, sit down and talk. Why do you think the brown person on the street is the reason for your problem? And I was looking at one of the images on Al Jazeera, and I saw majority of the white dudes, and I'm not saying all of them are, but majority of them looked like people without jobs. Like, you see them, they're covered in tattoo, they've got cans of alcohol. So it's almost like these are people who are being impacted, because when you look at the white elite, they are pro-immigration because it helps their businesses. It helps, their globalist agenda, whether they're globalist or not. They don't mind. If you look at the Conservative Party, obviously, I think they're more centrist when it comes to some of the far-right ideology. You see, like, it's very mixed.
Definitely.
You've got Rishi Sunak, who's from Indian background. You've got, what's the other guy?
Keir Starmer?
James. James Cleverly. His mix, some black and something else. They don't care about these things, and that's why I think the politicians need to listen. The more they cut these guys off or ignore them, the more we'll see the rise of this kind of behavior on the streets,
but
against black people, or against immigrants.
But the Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that following the recent incident protest, I think he said that the far right are showing who they are. So as you said,
against some comments like that, for me, even as an immigrant, some of them, I'm not, like I said, don't go parley with them and shake hands. All right, what is your problem? Immigration, we will have immigration. We are prepared to have some kind of sensible immigration policy and be true to yourselves. I think the whole, I think they go on about this, the boats, people coming via boat. Again, let's go back. There's a long history. We need to educate people. There's war in some of these countries. Who's causing the war? It's the globalists. So it's deeper than a lot of them have zero knowledge about this. So I think there should be some kind of scheme to educate them and get them engaged, have in conversation. Don't just tell them, no, we know who you are, we will deal with you, we'll send out the police or the force to come and deal with you. I don't think that's the right approach. I think if they go extreme where they're hurting people or they're intimidating people in the community who are just going about their business, like them going to the mosque, bring out the police and deal with them according to the law. However, I think it's high time in Europe that politicians engage with this fringe, these people who are on this extreme path, because as we can see, they're rising more and more. It's only a matter of time they will take over.
Just to end this program, we got 1 minute each. I'll start with you, Phil. Do you think, as Neka said, the way we've seen the rising of protest, the far right protest, the Prime Minister even said, Keir Starmer said, they're showing who they are. And if you look the target is more immigration, as Neka said, and Islamophobia. Do you think that people of immigration descent are safe?
Yeah, I think Kaneka mentioned earlier that people are doing so as a minority. I mean, we might see there's so many of them. They are not a small minority. And the press has to take responsibility, making feel like these people can do. We need to be responsible on what we're showing people. Everything part of the education. Like I heard Keir Starmer say, he's a prosecutor, yeah? He says he's going to put law in place to cut down this. I think education is the key. You can pull whatever law you want. If people if they want to do what they want to do, they will break the law to do what to do. In everything like this, you must see what you can do in short term, in long term, in the years to come. In short term, law might be applied, which is put a law in place, you arrest whatever it is. But in the longer term, you must be based on education. You must involve the press, because everything goes through the press. Whatever the press is showing people is what people think what's going on. You can make one person look like he's a million person on TV, but it's only one person. Or you can make one person look a half person on TV if you want. You can finish them. Press is a third power, as we say. We must use that power that is the press to change things. I remember watching one of Malcolm X interview. He was asked, what can America do to change this way of seeing people, racism and all that? His answer was, in the Second World War, Germany, Italy, and I think Eastern Europe, some countries, they were against the Allies. The Allies were British, the Americans, the French, and all that. And Japan was also against the Allies. Today we're talking Germany, Italy, and other countries. We were enemies, they are now friends. Russia, that was our ally, is now the worst enemy. What happened to change that view of things so people can see the friends become enemy become friends? He said if they could do that, 10 countries that fought amongst each other, that was lost millions of people, to turn that viewpoint, to turn the way they see things, he thinks racism can be ended if they want it, and they will. So all these are going on. If today they say they will educate people to see different way of the things, to stop seeing Asian equal Muslim, black equal gangster, if they stop seeing that, they stop showing people that way of seeing things, there will be a solution. As long as things are going like this, as long as they're showing what is sort of polluting, what is making people look stereotyping, that is bad, and that will not find a solution on these problems.
Something about
just to add, I think Phil, you're quite right, because media play a crucial role in a lot of some of our misconceived ideas, and like you rightly said, apart from education, the stereotype that we have of people that we probably never met comes from the media. And I think it's about time that, I don't know how that's, that can be implemented, or how, what can be done, or what measures need to be taken to address this, is holding media companies who are spreading misinformation or misrepresenting groups of people or ideas, and start holding them accountable. And I mean, it's obviously, I'm grateful that social media is changing a lot of things now, actually, because we're seeing real time information which is countering the mainstream media perspective of things when they try to present their so-called actual facts. But having said that, I think you're right, the media have a crucial role to play in some of this. Some of these people, they're probably innocently just all they see at one point, they see the boats, they see the images that have been presented is just immigrants
crossing the channel tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. They hype up incidents in certain community or issues from certain community, whereas in other communities they don't do as much. So they are causing this damage, and a lot of people are brainwashed. When you ask them, why are you on the street? Well, they're taking our jobs. There's a typical example of the one before the election. I can't remember this guy, and they asked him, and he has no clue why he's like anti-immigrant. And I think they asked him, do you work? He said no, but he believes immigrants have taken
he was the one who was just he was released.
He was released because he had a case of is it sexual whatever on his file. So that explains why you don't have a job. But anyway, I think the other thing I wanted to say is, even we as immigrants, we should also, we're saying this because we're all immigrants. We should also find a way to, it's almost like the burden is on us. I think that's what I'm trying to say. There's this huge burden on us to make sure we don't commit crime, because now once there's an incident in the news, from my own perspective, first thing I'm thinking is, was it committed by a black person? Is it a Muslim? Oh my God, I'm having almost this anxiety, please God, don't let it be an immigrant. It's almost like this burden is on us. It's like, what do? You're going to get blamed for some stupid person. So yeah, I think we if there's anything that we can do, also try and be good citizens. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Difficult task.
Because we're all individual at the end of the day.
Definitely.
But we have to try as a people to do whatever we can to counter some of the narrative.
I think creating narrative is very key. We need to create a narrative responsible from leaders as well, from our leaders. I remember David Cameron, when he was Prime Minister, one of the things I remember that he said, the big society has failed. I think the big society is how to create community cohesion between different communities has failed. He mentioned that, and that raised the eyebrows from different communities. But in terms of a narrative, in terms of how we communicate, we interact with communities, is very key on what we said, and because we listen to, as Philip you said, media played crucial part. We need to create a responsible narrative, even within our communities. Neka, we need good leadership within our community. We need to as a good citizen. It's very difficult to have a good citizen everywhere, but as a community we need to create that. We need to be that. We need to remember that we people of immigration is all we hear how to interact with other community that we met
Yeah,
here.
I think it's very key. Being when you're somewhere, also do your best to integrate into the society in a positive way. But obviously, sometimes you want to maintain your culture. And maintaining your culture doesn't mean that you're anti that country. For instance, we talk about Islamophobia. I know a lot of white people who are reverting to Islam, but we have a group of people in society who, I think Phil rightly put this at the beginning of the show, that it's not necessarily just because you're Asian. Yes, majority are associated with the religion of Islam, for example, but it doesn't mean that all Muslims are from the Middle East or North Africa. So I think this is where we need to start addressing the problem, that stereotype, and getting away from it.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you, Neka, for today's show around the rising of far right within European countries. Thank you for listening to us. We will catch up next time with another topic, current happening within the UK or any other part of European country or Africa. So if you're interested, you would like to join us, join me, Neka, and Philippe, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us on Inside Out through AUK Radio. We're in social media, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, or you can drop us emails as well at info@aukradio.co.uk. Thank you. We'll catch up next time. Bye-bye.